I'm Alex. I lead the Workfront practice at IBM iX, and I also lead the Workfront piece at Adidas. So, Rux, Adidas needs no introduction, and I don't know if everyone was here for the previous talk, but just in case, can you introduce yourself? Can you tell us a little bit more about Studio A, and can you tell us about Nova?
Yes, of course. So I'm Rox. You've heard a little bit about me and the story earlier. Director special projects, and one of the projects that we worked on to help ourselves get past of these complexities was is Nova, and yeah, let's.
And I mean, so Rox talked about the numbers that we've achieved with Nova, and those numbers speak volume, no pun intended. And so, where do we start? And the way that we start, and you guys probably saw this slide before, is by having an overarching pillar that will support your ecosystem. And for Adidas, that is made of two different systems, Adobe Workfront and Adobe Experience Manager. Adobe Workfront is the orchestration tool that helps orchestrate the end-to-end content creation process at Adidas, from briefing to planning to resourcing to executing and reviewing and approving. And then the central storage, that single source of truth that Rux talked about, Adobe Experience Manager. So this is the overarching pillar that we call Nova. However, it is not the only thing in the architecture. So Rux, can you tell us a bit more about the complexity that is Adidas architecture?
Yes, I think the most important part for us was to really look at the end-to-end process and connect in the company. I think the biggest achievement was a really great collaboration with brand, with tech, and on the digital side to look at the end-to-end marketing process, to understand the capabilities that are needed that we already have or maybe we're missing at this point, and to map the tools associated to them. One of the biggest achievements in the company, if you believe that, was to really make sure one capability means one tool and not every department goes and does what they need. And that as a no politics thing was actually great to help the progress of the project. And this is needed because we also need a one taxonomy, a very clear way to have the data accuracy across the entire process, to have the data travel with the process, so that at the end of this, we can actually build at scale personalization and obviously utilize all the Gen AI tools that we've seen. And of course, we're now using them in bits and pieces, but this kind of architecture really helped us across the entire company to have a one vision towards everyone can work again, for, let's say. And also, technology changes every 3 months. And so you kind of need to have the vision, but then keep flexible in achieving it. So that's why capabilities were more important than the tools. And the agreement is one tool, whichever tool is the perfect. And so the perfect one to be.
And I think what we can see from this slide is how much we've been able to actually standardize through Nova, which is really two systems. So you've got two systems that are basically taking care of almost half of the entire process. And, you know, Rox at the beginning talked about 50 systems that they were using prior to this. So it's a massive achievement. But to get to that 2B stage, we first had to understand the as-is. And let me tell you, when I first got to Adidas, it was very complicated to understand what was happening because so many teams were using so many systems to basically do the same thing, like collaborating, like resourcing, like briefing. And so I understood the challenges that they were going through, like the visibility from other stakeholders into what Studio A was doing, for example. So we went from there to this. And again, this slide is quite similar to the architecture slide that we saw before, which means, you know, we were trying to standardize everything into a suite. What I like about this slide that we don't show too much in the architecture slide is that we didn't do that disconnected. We actually integrated the Nova suite with the downstream and the upstream system, which means that if someone was putting campaign information at the beginning of the process, that campaign information would flow down and would remain the same until the end of the campaign or until the end of the process.
The cycle.
And what that means is gaining efficiencies, because now teams only had to put the information once, but also the integrity of the data and making sure that the data that started is the same data that ended. So as you could see, it was a massive, and it still is, a massive project. But Rux, how do we start something like this?
The beginning was the most difficult thing to do. Like I said, usually you have stakeholders that are opposing change, but here we really had even the implementation team overwhelmed with the change. So what we said, we picked 5 of the capabilities, which is, we call it the agency creation part. And even those, we split them in different MVPs. So one at a time, whenever there was something around interactions with another part of the process, we would park it for later, because the complexities that are generated from here, how are we going to connect with this later on? It was just a sure way to stop too early. And so after achieving the first 4 MVP sign-offs, and then prior to going live, when we had the first I think the first API connection ready, when we had one of the biggest teams of around 200 people already trained, and that sign off went off, that's when people really started to gain faith that yes, this is possible and we can do it, and the speed started on. So I cannot stress enough about really starting small and frequent releases until until the speed of the train goes smoothly.
And Rux, so what were the results?
Well, there were a ton of results. First, just within the Studio A piece, I spoke a little bit briefly before. 1 million that we were planned to achieve within this year, we actually achieved as a cost-saving exercise, and the whole program is supposed to go really high within the next 3 years as savings. Another thing is we have right now 600 people that are live in the platform. That are briefing, that are commenting, sending things for review daily. So it's from this point of view, it's great. It's amazing. It's a third of the process users. Another thing is, of those 50 things that were disconnected, 6 of them we've now decommissioned. And we have one system that has replaced them, the Workfront part. And of course, I don't even talk about AEM, which this helped with another big one, integration. We have almost, I think, 800 campaigns that have either 200 of them went live and 600 are work in progress. And I think most important of all is that we really worked as one team.
Yeah, and I'm super proud of what we've achieved, and the Adobe Experience Maker is a great way to actually take a step back and look at everything that we've done, because we're so busy on our day-to-day that we often forget to step back and actually see everything that we've achieved over the last year and a half. And, for me, having a clear architecture and having clear goal and having the to-be is great, but that's only one piece of the puzzle. The other piece is putting in place the right team that will get you there. And Rux, I want to thank your team for guiding us through what is Adidas and the process and the beast of the process that we saw earlier. And in turn, I hope we did a good job setting up the system in the best way possible for your organization.
I really have to say, we worked at the end as one team from the beginning, from the first moments actually. We went through the lows and the difficult conversations about how are these actually going to turn out, to the highs as well. And it was a great collaboration. I really advise, there's usually this fear of, well, it's another brand and another company and we shouldn't be so close together, but that's at the end of the day, we all want the success of the same project, and it's supposed to bring good to 800, 1,800 people. And so collaboration is key. It is key within the brand. It's key with our partners, Adobe as well, IBM iX. You guys have been. I mean, Alex has lived and breathed, breathed Adidas and Workfront for us. I don't know. It really was a tremendous experience, and the team, the internal team, has brought so much. As well to the knowing the processes, knowing how things can be shaped. It was just a wonderful collaboration. So yeah, from my learnings, I think do small things, celebrate, because it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So every little milestone needs celebration. And yeah, have fun.
And how do we say it at Adidas?
Well,
Impossible.
Impossible is nothing. I think the biggest learning here is that it is possible to change a big corporate, very complex process it is possible to do it, and it is possible to do it successfully. It's important to start. And indeed, as we say at Adidas, impossible is nothing. So yeah.
So Rux, we've got just under 2 minutes left.
Yes.
I want to ask you, what is next for us?
Yes, we are now halfway through integrating with two major other platforms, which are at the upstream, the demand intake part, so campaign portal, and anything around product, meaning physical product. So all information and all that, and that will really help generate, start the process properly with anything that becomes a campaign later down in the supply chain, content supply chain, as we are using it. Yes, a lot to go further. I think a lot of these integrations that are bringing on financial one that is ticked. We have the demand part, and then the last one is really enabling the personalization at scale. And all these initiatives that we're currently testing around Gen AI to really benefit of the scale infrastructure that Nova brought. So once again, thank you tremendously for everything that has happened in this past year and a half. And
looking forward to the year to come. We're
yes.
going to be very busy.
Yes, we will. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks.
And we'll help wait for you at the backstage, I think, if there's any further questions. Thank you.